Welcome to episode 150 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. My name is Nicole Morse, and I'm your host today on the podcast. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. Today is a bit of a role reversal. I'm going to interview Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University and your usual podcast host of the Fraternity Foodie. I think it's time we turn the tables and learn a little bit about Mike and his vision for fraternity and sorority life. As a professional speaker, entrepreneur, and author, Mike has headlined over 400 presentations across 200 college campuses in 35 states to bring light on pressing problems such as sexual assault prevention, hazing prevention, alcohol and drug abuse prevention, and motivation and student organizations. As the former executive director of Sigma Pi Fraternity, with 120 chapters and over 100,000 members nationwide, Mike has a deep understanding of the current situation on campuses and corporations, as well as a structured plan on how to empower our own youth to stop being a part of the problem and become an active part of its resolution. He's also the author of the latest book of fraternity and sorority life, and it's called From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. So let's get started right into the beginning. Mike, what was your undergraduate experience like, and what are some of the major differences you see from your experience and what students may be experiencing today?
So Nicole, you did a fantastic job. I hope you're available to do the next 100 episodes of Fraternity Foodie. Just quit your job, just come and be a host and do this full time. Does that sound like a plan?
You know I love giving you people to interview. You know that speaking is one of my favorite things, which is why I suggested the role reversal.
Well, this is certainly something different for me. So let's do it. I'm all about new experiences. So all right. So you want to know about my undergraduate experience?
Yes,
what I will
absolutely.
tell you is this. I had a very, very difficult time adjusting to 30,000 students at the university at Buffalo. Very different experience from what I was accustomed to. And I really didn't know how to interface with all of these students. To me, it just seemed like all of the students on my floor, in my res hall, they all seemed to be like perfectly matched with their roommate. And for me, it wasn't that kind of an experience. And so I just, I spent a lot of time either just going to class, eating, or sleeping. And that's really all I did my entire first semester. And it really got to the point where at the end of my first semester, freshman year, I called my dad and I said, you know what, I'm just going to give up this whole university thing and just start my career without a college degree. And my dad quickly put an end to that. That was not an option for him. He basically said, you have to go to school. You don't even have a room here. We rented out your room back home. So that was
really
it. And yeah, it was great. And but luckily for me, in the spring semester, that's when I met Rich, who was my big brother in the fraternity. He was in my calculus class, and we got along really, really well right out of the gate. And I'm just, really thankful for all of that. It really just started out as a relationship where, we would go and work out at the gym every day, and we got to know each other, over a course of weeks and months. And eventually he said, hey, come to this recruitment event. And I did, and I loved all the guys, and the rest is history. So that worked out really, really well. In terms of the differences that I see between my experience and what the students are experiencing today, I'll tell you this. When I was an undergraduate, if I go back to 1994, when I joined the fraternity, at that time, there was very little input from the executive office in terms of training and programming for the undergraduate fraternity members. We had a visit from a leadership consultant who would come from the headquarters once a year, and really that was about it. We did attend our national convention meetings every 2 years. So that was a big celebration to be able to go to our national convention and see brothers from all over the country. But that was really more like business meetings as opposed to actual educational programming. So I think if you look at what's going on today within the fraternity and sorority community, there's programming going on all the time. And, that ultimately is a really big difference from then to now. The other thing that's very different is I think alcohol usage is also very different. For me and the other undergraduates that were around in the 1994 timeframe, it really was, much more of what I would call a marathon. We would like to enjoy each other's company for an entire day. And so, sure, did we have beers? Of course. There was very little usage of hard alcohol at that time. I don't even remember, maybe once, over a 4-year span that I actually see hard alcohol being used. It just wasn't being used. For us, it was more beer at that time. And now it's a little bit different. Now it feels to me almost like a 100-meter sprint. It's, how quickly can we get the alcohol into our system? And that is troubling because I think now we have increases in liability and a lot more cases of injury and death that happens within college campuses. So for me, that is a little bit more concerning. And I think that's another major difference that I see in terms of the experience back when I was joining and the experience today.
I always comment as well, like about social media and how that just changed the just the aspects of going to a party or going to a recruitment event. I joined later and I don't remember ever having, like, we carried our digital cameras and we had to plug them in and upload them. You didn't upload your photos for 3 or 4 months. And now it's instantaneous, like the camera, the bad decision, everything gets commented, put online immediately. And I've always reflected on how lucky I was to be in college when I was, because I am a very quirky person. I'm sure I would have made some really terrible videos.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, today it's very different. Back then we didn't have social media. We didn't have cameras in our pockets all the time. So today, a bad decision on a college campus goes around the world in 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And so that is also very, very concerning. So, looking at social media, looking at the influence of social media on fraternities, sororities, potential new members, professors, parents, all of that, you really have to take all of that into account. It's just a very different time today than it was back then.
Absolutely. So, given all of that, why did you stay and remain involved as an alumna member?
I think I wanted to give back. I wanted to make sure that today's fraternity men and sorority women, for that matter, got a similar experience with the leadership skills, the motivation skills, the communication skills to go out and build their own companies just like I did. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur that way. And I don't think I would have all the skills needed if it wasn't for that fraternity experience. Because, I mean, think about it. Where else on campus are you going to be in charge of, let's say $100,000 budget? Where else on campus are you going to be able to work with 40 or 50 men or women, articulate your vision, motivate them to get started? And, it's just, it's an incredible leadership experience that I don't think exists anywhere on a college campus outside of the fraternity and sorority community. So for me, I think I just wanted to make sure that others had that same ability. The other thing is I wanted to be involved as an alumnus because I wanted to offer mentorship. I think that is also something else, since you asked the question before about what is different from then till now. I think what also is different is that I remember within our generation, we would constantly have older mentors that were in our life that we can basically call and count on for advice. And I did that numerous times, whether it be questions about my major or questions about my college experience. There were always mentors in and around my life that I could call on at any time. Family, friends that were really successful, I think about. But today, when you ask college students, who are their mentors, it's very likely that they're counting on their peers when they have questions. as opposed to going to somebody who's a mentor, maybe 20, 30, 40 years older than them that have been there and done that. And so I think the fraternity and sorority experience really should be one where they have those mentors that they have access to guide them. And I think that's really what makes all the difference between kind of an average chapter and one that is outperforming. Usually the outperforming chapters have mentors, have alumni, have an alumni board that is heavily involved with the chapter. And that's why they're so successful. So I wanted to remain involved to make sure that the next generation had those mentors available to them.
Yeah, I don't think I would be where I was in my fraternal organization without the generation before me saying you should stay involved. Your experience is not over. You have so much more left in this world that we call sorority life. And so I completely agree. And that's a huge reason I stayed involved. So there's a huge jump from staying involved, being an active volunteer, even being a paid staff member at your national headquarters, to committing to starting and opening your own business and company. So what made you decide to take that leap to commit yourself to fraternity and sorority experience by starting Greek University?
Well, to be honest, while I was working for the headquarters, I kept seeing the same problems on every single college campus that I would visit. And I traveled quite often to these campuses to see what's going on, to see how I could help the undergraduates. But on almost every campus, I was seeing alcohol and drug abuse. I was seeing sexual assaults happening on campus. I saw hazing happening within not only the fraternity and sorority system, but also within athletics and other places like the band. Ultimately, I wanted my own kids to be safe as they embark on their own college experience. And right now I have a daughter who's a freshman in high school. I have a son who is a sophomore in high school. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to me too, believe me. And so I know they're going to be on a college campus in 2 or 3 years. And so for me, I want to make sure that's a safe experience for them. I want them to go out and enjoy all the same things that I enjoyed about being on a college campus. But at the same time, I want to make sure they come home in one piece. And so selfishly, I want to make sure that all the college campuses are safe. And that's kind of why I embarked on this mission in 2015, was to continue the work to make sure that these college campuses are safe one by one. And eventually now, we're up to 14 speakers, because I know that this issue is much larger than one that I can accomplish on my own. So that's kind of why I decided to start Greek University in 2015. I wanted to make sure that all college campuses were safe, not just the ones that had my particular fraternity on it. I think ultimately, I have no idea where my kids are going to end up in terms of which college they're going to go to. And I believe in fraternities and sororities. So I just want to make sure it's safe no matter where they go. I really do. I believe in fraternity. I think we have a lot of work to do, but I firmly believe that today's fraternity and sorority members are the solution. They're not the problem. They are the solution. And I think we have to figure out how to leverage the leadership that's embedded within the fraternity and sorority system in order to solve these problems that are happening all over college campuses. I mean, if we look at alcohol and drug abuse, if we look at sexual assaults, name your problem. These are not things that are confined just to the fraternity and sorority system. They're happening all over college campuses. So I do think that the leadership that exists within fraternities and sororities can help us, because they really do kind of set the tone as far as social events. And they're the most visible, they're the most active, they're the most philanthropic, they do the most amount of community service, they're the most visible on campus. So let's leverage the leadership that we have there in order to change the culture. So I really view them as the solution. And that's kind of the mindset that I've had ever since starting the company in 2015.
I met you in 2016, and I remember asking you some of these questions and you showing me pictures of your children at that time. So it seems crazy that the little tater tots you showed me pictures of are full grown and, discovering who they are and what their passion and purpose in life is. And I remember sitting at, NGLA,
Sure.
saying, well, what is your greatest concern about the future of Greek life? And what would you say to your children if they came back and wanted to join a fraternity or sorority?
Yeah, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. So it's very easy for me to answer because all I have to do is replay what I said back then.
Yes.
I think that right now we certainly do have some problem chapter members. So we have to, have more accountability within our chapters and make sure that the entire fraternity and sorority chapter are truly living up to their values, living up to what they have all committed to when they join their organization, because that's the only way that we're going to avoid injury, death on college campuses going forward, is making sure that everybody who's in our chapter firmly believes in the values of the organization and they operate that way every single day. And the question is, are today's students able to have that accountability within their chapter? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's a little bit difficult to get rid of somebody who maybe you join the organization with at the same time, the same semester, and say, you know what, you're not a fit for this particular organization. So how do we encourage our chapters to find the maybe joiners, people like you and I, instead of the always joiners that have this preconceived idea of what they want to bring into our organizations, which may or may not really be what fraternity and sorority is all about. They might be learning about what they think fraternity or sorority is from pop culture, from places like Total Frat Move and all of these places that think they know what fraternity and sorority is about, but it's really nothing like that at all. So they might even be bringing some hazing activity they experienced in high school. A lot of the studies show that people have actually started, have been hazed when they're in high school. So they're bringing those activities with them. And I've seen numerous examples of that, one of which, was from a church retreat that was going on in high school. And then they brought that hazing activity into our chapter on campus. And so, I think we have to look at who we're recruiting and truly make sure that they reflect the values of the organization. And if at any time we look at their actions and we say, you know what, this is not in line with who we are as a fraternity or sorority, this is not in line with our values, at that point, there's got to be a warning. There's got to be some judicial process to say that, hey, you stepped out of bounds. If you step out of bounds again, this is not the place for you. You are going to be removed. And those systems need to be working properly. And in many chapters, they are working properly, which is great. In others, I just did a membership review remotely a couple of months ago. In some cases, those judicial processes are not working properly, and they can't get rid of the problem members. So the headquarters or somebody external has to go and do that work for them. That is not a healthy chapter. And those are the things that we need to watch out for. Some other things that I'm concerned about, the cost of liability insurance continues to rise. And ultimately that can rise above what college students can realistically afford. So I think the cost of liability insurance is something for us to be looking at very closely. And we have to educate our fraternity and sorority communities every 6 months, whether we're operating in a virtual environment like we have over the past year, or an in-person environment, or a hybrid, whatever. If we haven't spoken to them every 6 months about these risk management issues, then we have never spoken to them, because we have new members that are coming into our organization every 6 months. So we have to commit to the education to prevent these problems from happening before they even happen. And as far as your question, what would you say to your children if they wanted to join a fraternity or sorority? Listen, my daughter is a ready-made sorority president. I already can see it. I mean, that's just the way that she operates. So I see that very clearly for her. She's very strong-headed, very motivated, and has some really good leadership skills. I would be ecstatic if my children wanted to join a fraternity or sorority. I want them to ask the right questions before they get into their organization. I want them to do research. I want them to find the right home for them, no matter what those letters might be, So I'm not going into this with any preconceived ideas about where they're going to go. To me, that's really not as important. What's more important is that they find the right home for them, that they find other members that are going to support them, that are going to be their eyes and ears to watch out for them and protect them. And I think if we're doing fraternity and sorority the way that it was designed, then ultimately that fraternity house or that sorority house should be the safest place on a college campus. And so that's ultimately where I would like us to go. And if that includes my kids, wonderful. I think that'll be a great experience for them.
My sister is the same age as your children. She is a sophomore in high school. And these are conversations she remembers around the kindergarten age, you know, coming to Delta Gamma fraternity events and parents weekend, and has these really fun memories. And that conversation all those years ago changed how I felt committed to making sure that if that was her choice, that her memories would be just as amazing as an adult as they were as when she was a child. And that all kind of leads back to, I think, one of my major moments of pure new professional panic in our first conversation was, how does one person make a difference in the legacy of their organization or on their campus? And I remember looking at you saying, like, I'm not sure I can make a difference. And you changed the course of how I thought about my professional career.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think it's important for the undergraduates to understand that, you know, even if you are the newest member in your organization, that you literally were just initiated, you know, a day ago, this organization is yours. Okay. And you need to understand that it's as much as yours as it is the senior member who's just about to graduate, who's the chapter president, all the way through the alumni and everything else. This chapter is yours. This is your baby. And even more so as an undergraduate. I mean, as an alumnus, my time has passed, you know? So as an undergraduate, you really have all of the power, and you need to assume that power, assume that responsibility that comes with wearing those letters on your chest. You know, I think that's important for undergraduates to remember, that they absolutely can make a difference in the legacy of their organization because it belongs to them. You know, I have this quote in the book that I ended the introduction with, and the quote, it's from a guy by the name of David Brooks. He's a writer for the New York Times. And he said, when people are afraid or defensive, they have no tolerance for the person at the edge of the inside. They want purity, rigid loyalty, and lockstep unity. But now more than ever, we need people who have the courage to live on the edge of inside, who love their parties and their organization so much that they can critique them as a brother, operate on them from the inside as a friend, and dauntlessly insist that they live up to their truest selves. That quote just kind of blew me away when I read it. I mean, obviously at the time, you know, he's talking about politics and ensuring that Americans really live up to the values of our country. But at the same point, you know, I look at it, you know, through a lens of fraternity and sorority, like I do most things. And, you know, ultimately, I think that's what's most important. I think it's important for the members themselves, especially the undergraduates, to understand that they themselves have to look at their fraternal and sorority experience and basically decide, is this really in line with who we are as an organization or not? And if the question is no, if they decide that no, we're not really living up to our values, then it's up to them to insist that they live up to the values of the organization, because that's the only way that we can continue forward. And I think, you know, you can make a difference by speaking to your brothers and sisters one-on-one. Build allies before the big meeting when you have this main discussion. And then when the meeting happens, you can state your case and then have your brothers and sisters chime in with their support, because you've already gotten their support before you brought this up at a chapter meeting. So I think, you know, really building your allies is extremely smart. I think a lot of undergraduates, you know, they wait until, you know, whatever, you know, a major vote to start building allies. By then it's too late. You really want to kind of circle the wagons and do a lot of the work to build up your allies before you have this major vote or this major decision that's going to be made for your chapter. And then ultimately, I think, you know, the vote will go your way if you've actually done your work ahead of time. And one person with a plan can make a difference. If you're out there saying, well, I'm the only person in my chapter that feels this way. You know, ultimately, I've seen many chapters change their direction because somebody just really believed in something and they were passionate and they were able to convince their other brothers and sisters that this is truly the way to go. But you have to have a plan. You know, one of the videos that I show when we're talking about bystander intervention is this video where a crowd of people they stumble onto an accident scene. And the accident is that there was a collision between a car and a motorcycle rider. The motorcycle rider and the car kind of hit head on at a low rate of speed, but the driver of the motorcycle ends up sliding underneath the car. And so you have this motorcycle rider that's pinned underneath the car, and then you have 10 bystanders, just total random strangers that walk onto the scene. And one guy, you see him, he basically has a plan. He basically tells all the 10 people that are around him, these 10 strangers, we're going to all get together and we're all going to push and we're going to lift this car up and pull the motorcycle rider from under the car into safety. And literally, that's exactly what happens with no planning, no training. They all get up and lift this car. You have 10 people lifting a car and pulling this guy from underneath it. And it all happens on tape. It's just unbelievable. So my point is that one person who has a plan can make a difference. And I want to empower our fraternity and sorority leaders to say, hey, come up with a plan and you absolutely can, make a difference and change the legacy of your organization for the better. So I want to empower our students who are listening now to be able to do something like that.
One of my favorite things is to say that passion sparks passion. So if you're passionate about what you're speaking about, you're going to hit passion in someone else. So I firmly believe in what you just said. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk more about Greek University and what you're doing with Greek University. If you could request one single thing from all of your student audiences, what would it be?
I would say the student audiences should ask questions. This is a two-way conversation. I know today's college students, they love that back and forth interaction. And so ask us questions, come early to these presentations, stay late at the educational programs, introduce yourself to the speaker who's out there, and stay in touch with us. Tell us how we made a difference in your life. Tell us what changes you made in your chapter, in your council, on your campus. You have to understand that is the fuel that we need in order to keep going. I will tell you, we don't do it for the money, I promise you. We do it because we're making a difference in your lives, in your chapter lives, on your campus. And, when I have a student who comes to me a year later, 2 years later, after I've spoken with them, they usually find me at NGLA or AFLB.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, Mike, I remember that you said the following, and then they quote me like a paragraph of what I said. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. And now you're quoting me from a year ago or 2 years ago. Anyway, so they quote me and then they say, this is how I use that information to make a positive change on my campus. And then they describe, the event, maybe they have an event on, bystander awareness or on consent culture on a college campus. And they do this event, this peer-to-peer education, and they tell me how the event went. And, and that, when I hear stuff like that, that's what blows me away. That's what makes such a difference for me. That's my reward. And that's what I need in order to keep going. So that is really what I would request from all of our student audiences is stay in touch with your speakers. Let them know how they made a difference in your lives. Introduce yourself, ask questions, and stay in touch.
So I have met many of your speakers, and I'm always blown away by their stories and who they are as people. And I know that there's been many a times where I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. Do you look for in potential speakers or podcast guests, if there's anyone out there listening saying, I have a really good story, but I'm not sure I could do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear it. I think everybody has, some message that they can pass on. The question is, are they able to convey that to an audience? That is a whole nother question. I would say that I'm always looking for somebody that has a fresh message, something a little bit different than what's already out there. I'm looking for people who have lots of energy. I think that is also really important. Sometimes we're out there speaking literally from, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. I've actually done that. And so you have to have a lot of energy. You have to be very engaging, and somebody who can bring real change to a college campus. I think, the next question is, okay, this is great information. Now, what's going to be different after you leave, right? So anybody who is a big supporter of the fraternity and sorority experience, that's obviously somebody that I want to talk to, and somebody who has a great presence on screen. So typically I use these fraternity podcast interviews to kind of look at potential speakers and see what we have. It gives me a great opportunity to kind of see somebody on camera, see their passion, feel their energy, and make a decision. Is this somebody who can go onto a college campus and bring real change? And if so, then we start, talking to the group of speakers at Greek University to say, hey, I think we got something here. I think we got lightning in a bottle. Let's see what we can do to bring his or her message to college students all across the country. So, I think the podcast has really helped me to kind of see that firsthand. And so I'm really grateful that, this whole podcasting thing is a thing, especially during the pandemic where we're not able to see each other in person. At least this is a great way for me to kind of test the waters and see what kind of energy somebody brings. And do I think this is somebody that's going to bring real change? If so, then welcome aboard.
Yeah, I remember my interview on Fraternity Foodie. I have no idea what number it was, but I remember when this whole program launched and the amount of amazing speakers and messages you've been able to harness in 150 episodes is just incredible. And it always keeps me engaged in thinking about the people I follow online and who would make a dynamic interview. And I know I send you people all the time because I'm always thinking about how I listen to these and consume these and how it re-engages me and reinvigorates what I feel like my purpose is in fraternity and sorority.
That's great. I'm so happy that it's that outlet for you to keep you engaged and stay, remaining, at least in your mindset, within fraternity and sorority life. I think that's really important. A lot of people within higher ed, they end up leaving and going to other companies, and I want to keep them engaged. They're still valuable, very valuable to the fraternity and sorority system. So I'm really grateful for you, and I'm grateful for some of the other really loyal fans that constantly send me suggestions on who should be a guest on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, because as soon as I get those, because we've done this at least 20 times already, but I contact them right away and I'm like, listen, Nicole said that you would make a great guest. When can we make that happen? And so we have a number of really loyal fans that send me good leads, and that's how I've been able to get to 150 interviews, is that we have fans that really want to see various people on the show, and they send me those leads and we make it happen. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all the other loyal fans that have been with us since episode number 1. I never would have expected that we would have gotten to 150 episodes, but here we are. Here's to another 150.
Yes, another 150. And you heard that. If you have a lead, if you know someone with a passion and a purpose and a great message, the DMs are a great place to get Greek University on that interview. So it's also been astounding to see the growth of Greek University. The first time I met you, it was with Girl Scout cookies at a booth with just you saying, hey, I'm starting this whole crazy journey. And now when I see you at a conference, there's more than one speaker. There is branded giveaways. And now there's a book. There's a book. Yep. There's a podcast. It's just incredible to me that it's expanded so much. So what are you going to tackle coming up? Yes.
It's a great question. We always have some really cool projects. And, this year with the podcast and the book, I mean, it's really taken off. So I'm really excited about the future. I would say to you that we have some really exciting new speakers that are looking to join our roster. Some of them have some significant celebrity appeal. And so we're going to have some big names and some experienced voices are going to be coming to our team in the future. So I'm really excited about some of the new speakers that we're considering, and we'll see how all of that plays out in the future. We have started writing a second book, so you're hearing about that for the first time. I haven't talked about that anywhere else. I can't talk too much about it now, but it is going to be a game changer.
Wow.
for the fraternity and sorority community. We expect that we're going to release that in December of 2021. So we are super excited about book number 2. We are not resting at all. We're already working on our second production. So we're really excited about that. I do think in the future, we're going to work more with athletics going forward. We want to build a bridge between the Greek community and athletics. I believe that we should be working together. We have a lot of the same issues that affect college students. And I think it's a unique opportunity for members of sports teams to also join our fraternities and sororities as well. So I'd like to see a better bridge between those two communities going forward. And so that's what I'm going to try to work on over the next year. And I think we're going to have even more training for our speakers. Every year we gather in Nashville for team building and professional development. We're really excited. We can't wait to see each other in person at the end of July after obviously a long time away from each other. We are certainly mentors and supporters of each other and the team at Greek University. But what's interesting about the speakers at Greek University is that we're really close friends too.
Yes.
And we really, truly, like in my heart, we truly enjoy each other's company. And we just can't wait to see each other and give each other a hug. I mean, I know that sounds just like mind blowing, but as coworkers, but that's really how we feel. I mean, we really have an amazing family dynamic and we really truly care about each other. And we know that we can call on each other when we're going through a difficult time. And we know that we're going to celebrate our successes along the way. We're constantly cheering each other on, whether it be on social media or on the phone or on Zoom or whatever. So we're really each other's support structure. And so I think, that's going to continue. We have some amazing speakers that are going to come in and actually speak to us as a company this summer in Nashville. So it's a really exciting time to be a part of Greek University.
I mean, I've crashed many a team dinner or lunch just because I love being around you and your team. I even gave myself an honorary title in your company just because I needed to be a part of it because of that team dynamic. It really is outstanding. And it really, you build family like fraternity and sorority life, where you kind of plant those ideas and where people water them. And Greek University and the team of speakers you have, you guys definitely water each other's ideas and watch them grow and blossom.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have just an amazing group of speakers, very diverse group, that everybody really kind of has their own lane in terms of what they're passionate about. But at the end of the day, we're all just united on this idea that fraternity and sorority is the best leadership on a college campus. And we're just going to keep marching on and keep working to fix the issues that face fraternities and sororities today to ensure that it's successful. I think we're going to have the biggest year for fraternities and sororities. I think, there's going to be big growth that's going to happen here in the fall, that people are going to want to join these organizations in the fall. So I see really good things ahead for the fraternity and sorority community. I see really amazing growth is going to happen this fall in terms of educational programming. Everybody's in a rush to have this educational programming because we've been away from the students for so long that they can't wait to have us there in person. So now, the fraternity and sorority advisors are like, all right, forget about, online. We want you here in August. We want you on campus with the students. We want you to do a book signing with the students. Let's make this a big event, and I can't wait. So it's going to be the biggest semester that we've ever had this coming fall.
So gearing up for that, I know that there are some obvious ways to support Greek University, such as listening to the podcast, liking, subscribing, sharing, giving you some leads and some new content. But what are some maybe lesser known or unconventional ways that you can support Greek University during this time?
Yeah, the biggest thing right now is just go onto Amazon and buy our book, right?
Yes.
From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. It's this orange book. Go out and pick that up because, I know all the speakers worked really hard on that. And I think what you're going to learn is you're going to learn a lot of new things about the speakers that you had no idea. You're going to be like, oh my God, I had no idea about Jamie Devin Wilson and her story. Like, there are just a lot of people that maybe casually, but you don't really know their story. And they put it all out there in that book. So go out and pick up that book on Amazon. It's only $2.99 on your Kindle, or $9.99 if you want the paperback copy. So it's super cheap. I think we wanted to make it affordable and accessible to anybody in the fraternity and sorority community. So go out and pick up the book. That's really one great way that you can support Greek University and learn more about the speakers and what they bring to college campuses, why they're so passionate about their topics, what their stories are. And it's, I really think, a great guide, a really great tool for college students to be able to fix some of the problems that they're seeing within their chapter, their council, and their community. Please contact me if you have a need for a speaker, whether it be this summer at your conventions or maybe on campus this fall, especially as we get closer to these in-person social events. Things like alcohol and drug abuse, sexual assault, hazing, mental health, all of these risk management conversations, I think, are going to be more important than ever this semester, this fall semester that's coming up. So contact me. My email address is bookings@greekuniversity.org. You can call me on my cell phone. It's 516-642-3108. Call me anytime, day or night, weekends, whatever. I don't care. I'm just so driven on this mission that I'm literally working around the clock to make sure that we have all the speakers in place, to make sure that we have a safe fall semester. I think that's really what I'm gearing up towards. And just check out our website. The website is greekuniversity.org. So that way you can learn more about all of the great team members that we have at Greek University, and ultimately how they can help your fraternity, your sorority, or your college community. So I'm just here to help. Let me know what I can do to help you.
So, Mike, this is the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, and you always throw this at your interviewees. So now it's your turn. Tell us about your favorite foods.
Oh my goodness. All right. I mean, it's almost too numerous to speak about. It was so interesting, actually. One of the earlier episodes, I actually interviewed this guy who is the creator and the executive producer of Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives on the Food Network. And we had this long conversation about the history of bagels, which I absolutely love, from New York City. We talked about pizza and all the different varieties of pizza all over the country. I'm a huge—
So New Haven is the best, New Haven style pizza.
I know you have your certain leanings, and we certainly have talked about that at length. Listen, it's all good. And it was really interesting to get his feedback on that. Like, is Chicago pizza really good pizza, or is it a casserole? And basically, his response was, listen, it's all valid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just give us good ingredients, no matter what your interpretation is. Give us good ingredients, and if it's good, we'll eat it. And it's all valid, right? You can't say that anything is not valid. It's just, different preferences and different styles. That's all, and it's all good. When I go to Chicago, I still like to have their thin crust pizza, but that's okay. That's just my preference. I would say to you that I love all Asian foods. For me, Thai is probably top of my list. I really like that. Korean is fantastic. Japanese, Indian. I'm the big spice guy. So any kind of curries or anything like that, I'm in. And I like really, really spicy foods. It's kind of all over the map. There is a restaurant that opened up in Brentwood, Tennessee, which is like the next town over from Franklin, and it's a brand new Thai restaurant. It's called Thai Esane, Esane, and it is absolutely delicious. It's very, very good, extremely spicy. So it's not for the weak at heart. You really have to be able to tolerate high spice levels. But I had it last night, and it was absolutely amazing. I usually get, some kind of chicken curry dish. I think last night was like a Penang curry, which was fantastic. And then they also make this papaya salad with like spices and like peanuts on top. And it is like so spicy, but it is so delicious, and it's so fresh. The ingredients that they use are just so fresh. It just got me going last night. So that's what's top of mind right now. But I love all food. That's why I am the fraternity foodie. I can't say no to food. I love it. It's what keeps me going. And I think what's fun about my job, especially when I travel to all these different college campuses, is kind of sampling the food in all of these cities and seeing my friends like you, Nicole, when I get local, so that way we can go out for lunch and try a new restaurant. And that's what I love about my job, is it gives me the freedom not only to work with college students, which obviously motivates me, not only to talk about fraternity and sorority, which is, you know, something that I love dearly, but also to eat really good food. So I feel blessed to be here, you know, with you. I feel blessed to have our speakers at Greek University. They motivate me and they make me a better person every single day. And what can I say? I'm really blessed in life to be able to do what I love and what I'm passionate about. And hopefully that'll continue forever.
So as we wrap this up, I would not be doing my due diligence if I didn't ask about the other burgeoning star in your family, that's white, fluffy, and in Klondike. So I just wanted to do a quick Klondike check-in and see how the little superstar is doing.
Klondike is doing great. You know, he's got his own Instagram account. You know, so Klondike Kitten is his handle. Definitely go and check that out. Klondike is doing great. He's just celebrated his 1-year birthday. So we had a hat for him, we had a bow tie for him, we had a cake for him. It was a big celebration. He is doing great. He's a very good looking cat, extremely good looking. I mean, people like look at him and they're like, oh my God. It was funny because we were talking to the vet and we were trying to figure out when is the next time to get him to a vet appointment, because he hasn't seen the vet since he was like a baby kitten. And they looked at his file and they're like, oh no, it's fine. You know, maybe at like a year and a half is probably the next time you can bring him. And then they took a look at the picture on the file and they're like, oh my God, your cat is stunning. Maybe you should bring him in right away. It's just because they want to see him, because he really is like one of these like, you know, cat calendar type of like stunning good looks. And you look at him, you're like, wow, what is that? And so, yeah, he's got really good looks. There's no question. I think, you know, ultimately he's got a weird personality in that sometimes he just wants to not, like, he always wants to be near us, which is great, but not necessarily in our lap, if that makes sense. Like he just wants to be like next to us, but not in the lap. So, you know, so that's kind of, you know, our preference would probably be to have him in our laps, but that's okay. Yeah, but that's okay. He's still the sweetest thing. And I usually throw him in our TikTok videos. So if you want to check out TikTok at Greek University, you'll see a lot more of Klondike there.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me, the host of Fraternity Foodie, this morning. And I look forward to giving you back the reins and seeing the next 150 interviews.
Thank you so much, Nicole. You are the best. You are a true friend. I can't wait to see you again in person, and continued success. Thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. We hope that you have enjoyed it. If you did, please like this and share this with other fraternity and sorority enthusiasts on your campus or within your alumni ranks. We'll see you on another episode. Bye for now.
Signing off.